Alright, in this video we're going to be installing the Delta frameless sliding door that's in stock at Home Depot. And the reason we're installing a shower door on this shower is that it was a shower curtain, but the water was leaking out into the corner, which was one of the worst areas for water to pool and can eventually rot out subfloors and cause all sorts of problems and damage. So the way you buy this at Home Depot is you choose number 1, which is the glass that comes in different types of glass. One is this tempered glass clear, and then there's other ones that are frosted or kind of have a rain pattern. And then number 2, you choose the track. This is the traditional track, which is the cheaper option. They do have another option that looks a little bit better, but it costs quite a bit more. And then step 3, you choose the handles. These are 2 different options. The one on the left is a little more expensive. This is what the track looks like when you open it up. And this is where the instructions are. Materials list is right here. Pretty basic tools. The first step is to measure your opening and make sure that the shower door is actually going to fit in the shower that you're working with. So in this case I had 2 width measurements, one for the bottom, one for the top, and then I had the measurements of the tile. Is 2 inches taller with the bull nose on top, so I made note of that. On both corners, so that's going to be this option 1A versus a smooth rounded corner where you'd have to cut the track with scribing a coin onto it. So these are the 2, well, this is one of the side tracks, and there's 2 of these. That you put this shorter end on this I-beam shape against the wall, and the flanges that are a little bit wider face into the door. Got the tracks taped up. These are what they label C. So I started out by measuring 3/8 inch in from the edge of the shower pan, and I made a little pencil mark there. I did that on both sides. I did that on both sides so that the edge is the same distance in on the pan. And I did the best I could with the level here to level these and tape them up. But I am gonna, when I actually go to mark the 3 holes, I'm gonna just hold the level up at the same time, just because the tape doesn't do a perfect job. There's still a little bit of wiggle there. A really thin little pencil here, made some marks, and then I just drew X's over the little marks I made through the holes, depending on what your shower is. But for tile, they say to remove the wall jamb and then drill a 1/4 inch hole using a tile bit into the markings. Try to let it cool down between each one, and then kind of start it on an angle, kind of like that, just to get the, because otherwise it just wants to dance around on the tile. So when you get through it, it hits the concrete backer board and a little dust cloud explodes. Here's these 3 holes. So these ones I just got through the tile. And then, so on this side there's a stud behind these holes. And I basically ended up drilling out just a little bit deeper and getting these plastic anchors into the wall for the tile portion, and left the wood portion with a smaller hole available for the screw threads to bite into. And then I did have a heck of a time getting these plastic anchors to fit in the 1/4 inch holes that the instructions call for. I think if I were to do this again, I would either drill the holes slightly larger or buy an assortment of plastic anchors, which is probably the better option at Home Depot while you're there, just so you have some other options that are smaller to fit inside of these holes, which is what I ended up doing. It's also worth pointing out here that on this wall there wasn't a stud behind the holes, which I was a little concerned about, but it didn't end up being a problem. We've been using the door for over a month now, and I don't notice any issues with not having a stud behind this wall. Next step, you're gonna need these bumpers and then all these clear ones. They have a recessed part and 6 long screws. And here we're just attaching these bumpers. So the 2 clear bumpers, one goes on the top, one goes on the bottom, and then the grooved gray bumper goes in the center, and those long screws just go through the pre-drilled holes that are already in them. You do want to be careful not to over tighten the screws and warp or bend the track. Okay, so I measured the top of the shower from edge to edge and marked out 58¼ inches in my case to here, and triple checked my measurements. And then I'll take it outside and use a hacksaw. Okay, so I got the track cut. Just set it on top. And then you're supposed to add these T-straps here, so I go in, under, kind of twist in, and then you just push them against the inside of the track here. So then once you got these little, they call them T-straps, these plastic bits, mark the hole with a pencil, and then you're just gonna drill a 1/8 inch hole there for a screw. You're gonna use these 2 slightly longer ones that are not those flathead ones. So for this next step, we're moving on to the glass panels, and it says to measure the width of the glass. So the instructions have you do some measurements here to make sure that the bottom plastic edging is going to fit the glass doors. In my case, the plastic edging was the perfect size without needing to measure at all. So you can just check that by putting the plastic edges on and see if they fit. And if they don't, you might have to cut them. They're pretty much spot on, so shouldn't have to make any cuts here. Going to be using these glazing channels for silicone caulk, only on the corners, not on the rest of it. Ooh, that's a lot. Don't need much at all, as you can see, it just squirts out. Alright, so the next step is to install these hanger wheels. So I just did the first door here. Sticker on the other side of the glass here says inside. So the wheels right here are going to be facing the inside. And then there's just a screw and a nut right there. And there's a little plastic sleeve. You want to make sure that little plastic sleeve ends up in the hole in the glass. Okay, and here I am hanging the first door. This is the inside door. The instructions say to do this with 2 people, which would probably be better, but it can be done by yourself. You just have to be very careful not to hit the glass against metal or any other hard objects. Okay, for the outside door, you want to position these so that you can have this label, and this label says position this side in, and in this case the wheels are facing out. Okay, and here I am hanging the second door, which is on the outside. So again, just being very careful not to bang any hard objects or metal with the door while you're moving it in. And then being very careful not to bump the other door while you're hanging this door. Alright, and getting close to the end here. The next step here is to measure the bottom rail and cut that. So you're measuring from the inside of that I-beam shape to the other inside of the other I-beam shape. And then after you've cut it, you're going to have another person hold the glass doors in a little bit, make sure it fits. Then you're going to pull it back out, and you're going to put a bead of silicone along the underside of the frame facing outward, and then go ahead and lay that down on top of that bead of silicone. Bottom rail is installed with the doors on the inside. Put a bead of silicone along that edge underneath, a little bit squirted out. I just wiped it off. There's going to be another bead over everything in just a little bit. Okay, and for this step I just measured out the center line. So I took half the measurement of the bottom rail, put a little pencil mark, and then I installed this little center plate or guide with two 1/8 inch holes and those last two little flathead screws. Instructions say to make sure that both doors slide back and forth without getting binded up. So in this case, they both seem to slide pretty well. Now we're going to go ahead and silicone the edges of all the rails all the way around it on both sides. And then we'll be just about done, other than installing the handles. Okay, and lastly, I just installed these two handles. Home Depot has different models you can choose from. This was the more expensive option. It was $80. There was a $40 option as well. There was only one handle and two little pegs on the inside. Pretty easy, they just screw in. I did put a little silicone at each joint there, especially in the one that's facing inside. And yeah, pretty nice. So there it is. Got the shower on and we're testing it. You see it splashing on the door here. And it splashed all over here. You can see. Okay, so here you can see right after the shower, glass is all fogged up, and it's hard to see here, but you can see just a few droplets of water kind of out here on the tile. So again, this is the side where the shower head is, and there are just a few droplets kind of like right in here, so it seems like they're kind of just bouncing underneath the door and coming up and over. The nice part, the thing that I like, is the droplets are kind of out here on the tile, and there's no water accumulated right here along the edge, which was the goal of putting this short shower door in. Previously, again, with the curtain, it was this corner that I was really concerned about. Water would run down here and accumulate in the corner, which is kind of the worst spot, is along that edge.